session for some of us on the college and career ready night. My name is Kyle Burrett. I'm an associate principal here in 214 at Elk Grove High School, and I am going to be the moderator for our panel discussion here. But before I do that, I was asked to share a little bit of information with you about, what the pathway is. So once again, as we have some people joining, welcome. This is our second session tonight. We're going to spend the next 45 minutes or so talking all about the culinary arts and culinary pathway and opportunities for students there's a lot of opportunities for students and kind of where each of us on this panel fits in on that. So welcome. And I'm going to go ahead and get started. Again, my name is Kyle Burrett, Associate Principal here in Elk Grove High School in 214. I'm going to have our panelists introduce themselves and give you a little bit more background on themselves in a little bit. But this is who you're going to be hearing about tonight. Sorry, hearing from tonight. But before we get into that, this is a kind of a snapshot from our official kind of academic handbook. And you're able to find all of this information about the courses that we offer and the course descriptions and a little bit more about them. All this is available on the website, and we have a lot of resources that are uploaded, and including this video from tonight's presentation will be uploaded there. And I'll give you that exact address in a moment, and then also later on before we leave. But what you're looking at now is all about culinary arts, which falls under the hospitality and tourism career pathway here in 214. And I want to point to the top in the red here. And so this is the series of courses that students can take specifically in culinary arts. And you'll hear about what they do what students do in those courses and then beyond here in a little bit. And then all it lists is the English, the math, kind of the rest of the student day. But we're going to talk more tonight about Intro to Culinary Arts, Advanced Culinary Arts, which is an introduction career orientation course, and then junior and senior year courses that center around a program that's called ProStart. And I'm going to let the experts talk a little bit more, but this is a certificated program where students really get into some great skills that they can use then in their career in culinary arts. But you'll hear more about that in a little bit. This is the website where you can find said information about all the different career pathways, d214.org. And then if you use that kind of academics tab at the top, and then there is the information, academic programs and pathways guidebook. It's thick, it's robust, and it's almost got too much information. But if you spend some time, it's a great place to get some follow-up information and get some questions answered that hopefully we can spark an interest in tonight during our discussion. And I will again come back to this slide before we end tonight. So once again, welcome to our panel discussion here surrounding culinary arts. I'm going to start in the order that they're on my screen, kind of going left to right. And I'm going to have the panelists again introduce themselves, kind of tell you their name, their role within the organization, and that they're affiliated with. And then we'll get a little bit more into their background in a little bit. So Dr. Jeanette Roy, can you go first?
Hello, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Kyle, for the introduction. I'm Dr. Jeanette Roy, and I am the interim coordinator for the hospitality program and food service management at Harper College. I'm new in the role, but I'm not new at Harper. I've been an adjunct professor there for the last 3 years. So I'm just kind of feeling my way around the coordinator spot. So bear with me tonight. My background, I have a bachelor's degree in hospitality administration. I have a master's in human resource administration and a PhD in organizational leadership. Most of my career, I was in the industry side. On the industry side, I was manager, sales and manager for director of sales and management for marketing for a hotel, and then moved later to MPEA, which is Metropolitan Pier and Exposition Authority, where I was director of sales and marketing for McCormick Place and Navy Pier. After 9/11, I had a panic attack and I said, I can't fly anymore. And that was part of my job. Every week I was on a plane going somewhere. So I quit and went back to school and got my PhD. So for the last 9 years, I've been a professor at Purdue University Global teaching hospitality management. I was the course lead before I officially retired last year. I was the course lead for the hospitality program, which included hotel operations and food service management. So that's my background. Did
Great.
you want me to go on?
No,
Can you-
no, that's great. Thank you. That's quite a journey. So thank you for
Yes, it
sharing. I
is.
appreciate it.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Katie, you're next on my screen. Could you tell us about yourself?
Yeah, hi, I am Katie. I currently am working at John Hersey High School in the attendance office. But for the last 5 years, up until 3 months ago, I ran my own baking business from the comfort of my home. I just moved here from Los Angeles, and my business is based in LA. But I went to culinary school in LA, to a small school called LA Trade Tech, which has all the trades. I did the culinary and professional baking track and got my certificate. It's a 2-year program. I have always had a passion for baking. And when I was in high school, I was like known as the student who was walking around with baked goods 24/7. And it kind of just became my career. There wasn't really any rhyme or reason to it. I just realized that I could do it. I liked doing it and I was good at it, and decided that that would be my path. And yeah, that's me.
Great. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. Kimmy, you're next on my list. Oh, unmute yourself first.
I'm muted. I have 2 little ones, so I'm gonna stay muted because they're quiet right now, but I
Okay.
can't guarantee it. Though that's a big part of my journey. But where I started definitely was when I was a babysitter, when I like maybe 13 or 14. I got my first aid certified, and really was passionate about taking care of children, and kind of carried that through. When I became 16 and could get a real job, I started working at our local Dairy Queen, and had a lot of fun there with one of my girlfriends. Is one of the reasons why I started working there. And then I became a host at Bennigan's, which is I'm pretty sure none of the teenagers know, but it used to be a very popular restaurant. So I spent a lot of my time doing that at Bennigan's. And then when I went off to be my pathway, whichever way I wanted to do, I actually wanted to be, I was thinking about maybe being an event planner as well, like maybe planning weddings. And I did a job shadow. I'm putting this in here now because I think it's good for everybody to hear that it was something I was interested in. I went for one a night. I followed this lady around in the Harrington in Geneva, which is actually a pretty established place to go to. And she was very honest about her job. She felt very tied to her job. She didn't like it at all. She said, it's a napkin color, but to the bride, it's a napkin color. And like, she made it very interesting, honest, open view of what her job looked like. And I appreciated that also. And then I also both my parents were high school teachers as well. And I really do, I love that type of environment, and inspiring, and helping different people too is always something that was interesting to me as well. So then I became an FCS teacher, which means I can teach the culinary arts, and then I can also teach the preschool in the high school setting. And then I also run the entire fashion program as well, which is kind of linked with the manufacturing area. But then, so since I started at Rolling Meadows, that was my very first job. I hope it's my last job too. I love it at District 214. So then I started at the Pro Start program. So we had foods 3 and 4. I had 12 students there. And this is back in 2007 or 2008. And then they're like, well, you worked in a restaurant, so do you want to run this Pro Start stuff? And then now it's absolutely become a very huge program that involves lots of people. And I'm really proud of the success that it's had. So that's kind of where I'm from.
Great. Thank you. Yes. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. Charlie, next on my list.
How you doing? My name is Charlie Brown. I'm the executive chef of the Moorings in Arlington Heights, which is a senior living community. I oversee the entire culinary operation. We have 2 main kitchens here, one that prepares for independent living, and also another kitchen that prepares for assisted living and the healthcare side. Prior to this, I did university feeding. I had a management and consulting company. I worked with clients across the country that were predominantly athletes. That athletes want to own restaurants, but they don't want to run them, so they would hire me. And prior to that, I've worked in restaurants and establishments all over the country. It's been I'm a graduate of Johnson Wales University in Providence, Rhode Island. It's been this business has been a passion of mine for a long time. That's
Great.
about it.
Great. No, thank you for sharing. Rick, also from the Moorings.
Right. Hi, I'm Rick Pruller. I'm the healthcare dining manager at the Moorings of Arlington Heights. I do not have an extensive culinary background. I just jumped into this about 5 years ago after retiring from a telecom business. My educational background is a bachelor's in management from Roosevelt University and an MBA from DePaul for information systems. Practicality, though, it's the type of skills you use no matter where you go. And, it's worked out well for me at the Moorings. Interestingly enough, my wife and I have raised 3 kids here in Arlington Heights. They all went to Rolling Meadows, graduated, so it's fun to be back with District 214 tonight. We've enjoyed the program. We've had 2 interns with us this year. That it's been a great experience for us and for them, I believe. So we'll get into more details later, I guess.
Great. No, thank you. Catherine Schmidt.
Yes, I work in the district office. I am a placement specialist, and I work with students who are looking for internships. An internship that I would work with a student on is a 30 or a 60-hour internship, either in the fall, spring, or summer semesters. And it would be different from a ProStart internship, which I'm sure you'll hear a little bit more about from Kimmy. But I want to encourage everyone. I had the pleasure of working with Nico this summer. Nico did, and she'll probably tell you a little bit about this, a pastry internship, and had a very good experience with a new partner of ours. So I want to encourage all the students on this program to think about doing an internship if you have an interest in culinary arts.
Perfect segue. Nico, why don't you do just that? Introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you're doing this year, but then also the past experiences within this pathway.
Yeah, so my name's Nico. I'm a senior at Buffalo Grove High School. So I've taken a bunch of culinary arts courses there, and I'm currently in ProStart. And so yeah, over the summer I had an internship at the Bakester, which is like a patisserie, and I just really like baking in general. And now I actually got hired there after, so that was really cool. And yeah.
That's good. Great. Well, we're going to come back to hear a little bit more in detail in a little bit. So thank you. Thank you all for introducing yourself and sharing your journeys, because that's part of what these college and career nights are about, is how our schooling impacted our career and life decisions. So that's great. Thank you for sharing all that. I want to start with our community and kind of industry partners. And Charlie, I'm gonna start with you, and I'm gonna ask you, what, if there is a typical day, what does a typical day look like, and how did your training in schooling or experience prepare you for that, for those days?
Well, I think, for me, it's just basically the overall experience that I've had within the business that has trained me to be able to do what I do today. Mm-hmm. So my typical day starts somewhere around 7:30 in the morning. And, I come in, I walk through my kitchen. I always go through all the coolers. I check everything out. The kitchen that I oversee most immediately does not have any employees at that time. So I go to our other kitchen and check in with the guys, see how everything's going, if there are any needs, stuff like that. And then, I start to prepare for the day, for the staff that's coming in, any kind of items that need to be prepared immediately, looking over the prep list, looking over, the things that we have and the coolers that need to be, worked on, and making sure that the menus are executed the way that they are to be done. And, my day, goes through a little bit of breakfast, lunch, dinner, and I kind of end anywhere between 6:30 and 7 o'clock at night. And I just think that, for me, I've run restaurants as an executive chef for many years. And I think that prepares me for the experience on the assisted living side of the business. I've done university feeding, which is kind of more of a bulk feeding, almost catering in a sense. So I believe that experience has kind of helped me understand what happens with assisted living and healthcare, because it's in our establishment, we prepare foods in one central kitchen and then we ship it out to satellite kitchens. So it's almost like doing a catering every day. So, I think, my ability to understand and execute what has to be done is basically through the years of experience, not necessarily through any particular kind of education.
Sure, that's good. What specific advice do you have, or what's your best advice for high school students interested in this career field?
Okay, so the first thing is, it's not easy.
Mhm.
Okay, and everybody has to understand that. And this is it's a business that takes dedication and the need and want to learn. And you don't. I think that our industry, at least in cooking, has suffered from what is called the Food Network effect, where everybody comes out, they watch Food Network, they go to culinary school, and now they're the best chef in the world. And it doesn't work like that. And you have to really, you go through your education, you learn the basics, and then you go into getting your PhD in the School of Hard Knocks. And you have to work, and you have to learn, and you have to surround yourself with people that you feel will teach you what you want to learn. So I was very fortunate as I grew up in this business to surround myself by people that I thought were just incredible chefs. And I learned and I learned and I learned. I read, I met, I met as many people as I could. I cooked for as many people as I could. I read as many things as I could. And I continued to educate myself until this very day. So those are my words of advice. Don't
Great. No, that's great.
know
Thank
it
you.
all. You just got to keep plugging away at it, and you're going to get to whatever your ultimate goal is. You're going to get there, but it's going to take some time.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Katie, similar questions to you from your days, kind of running the bakery. What was a typical day like for you in that business?
It's kind of hard to describe a typical day, so I'm going to do a typical week because I did much smaller scale, custom birthdays, weddings, parties, you name it, kind of thing. And I'd say about 95% of my orders would always be picked up on Saturdays. So my week started on Sunday. I worked 7 days a week. Didn't really give myself a day off, and that kind of happens when you're a one-woman show running your own business. But my Sundays were my prep days. Emails are done like throughout the week. And I would put together a list of all of my orders, figure out what grocery shopping needed to be done and get that done and out of the way. And then depending on how much time was left in my Sunday, usually not very much, it was baking. Most of what I did was custom decorated sugar cookies, and that's something that I always bake ahead of time. So I would bake on Sunday/Monday. And make all of my icing. Tuesdays were dedicated to making icing colors, which takes a heck of a lot longer than most people would think. It really is a full day job, is just icing colors. And then Wednesday through Friday morning would be decorating. Friday would be packaging and getting everything ready to go out the door on Saturday. In between all of that, like logistical, getting orders out was emailing, talking on the phone, marketing, like all the kind of like things that people don't really think about that you need to do to run a business. It is constant. My phone would be ringing at 2 a.m. with customers thinking that I'd be awake and ready to respond to them. And I was awake, but I was not ready to respond to them. So yeah, that's what my week would kind of look like in a general kind of scale.
That's good. Any advice for high school students looking at this field?
For my experience personally with running my own business, I really like, I cannot say enough that like, if you don't love it, don't do it. Like, this is not the job for someone who like does not love what they're doing. It worked for me because it is my hobby, my passion, and my love. If that wasn't it, then like it wouldn't work. It really did, especially the first like year and a half, 2 years of my business. It really, like, it took my whole social life, my whole personal life. Like, it was my everything. And it's like my firstborn baby, in a sense. Like, it took all of my attention, and it was tiring. And there were definitely nights where I wanted to throw in the towel and find another job, work in another bakery. But then I'd wake up the next morning and be like, I'm going to bake something to get my mind off of this thing that's stressing me. Like, it's like, that's truly how it kind of works for me. And so I just, anytime someone tells me that they're interested in running their own business, whether it be in culinary or not, it's always like do you love it? Because if you don't, then like you probably shouldn't do it.
That's
yeah.
great. No, thank you. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. Rick, I want to stay with the community and industry partners and ask you kind of something similar. So what trainings or certifications, degrees are needed for this field? And then in high school, how could a student prepare to kind of work for you?
Well, that's one of the unique things about this field, is that a high schooler can enter the professional world from the bottoms up and begin to see what the real world is like, and decide whether they like things or not, and see and try different things. There's many different types of restaurant experiences. You get one type at a hospital, another type at a retirement home, another type at the local, McDonald's, whatever. But I think it gives them a real opportunity to come in and see what things are really like and what people really do and how the day really goes. So it's the perfect field for them. For us, we're open 7 days a week, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So we're staffing, we're working everything all the time. We're always trying to hire people too. So there's plenty of job opportunities out there for the kids. But I think they would come in just off the street and we would just begin their training. They're going to learn about sanitation. They're going to learn about food safety, and just what our procedures are and what the rules are, in terms of how we operate. You start at the bottom and you work your way up slowly. Little by little, you'll pick up more and more responsibilities and more experiences within that business. How fast it goes depends on the individual in terms of how quickly they pick things up and how quickly they progress to working more independently in serving food out of one of our locations or one of our satellite kitchens. So I think that's the one unique thing about culinary, is that it's perfect for entry-level jobs. I personally did an entry-level job with this for cooking, and it's just led from one thing to another in the last 5 years. And there wasn't any plan for me to get to this spot in 4 or 5 years, but that's how it turned out for me working here at the Moorings. So
Great. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I hope a lot of that resonates with our people here tonight. I want to talk a little bit on our dual credit partners, and you had talked about trainings and we talked about experiences, but Dr. Roy, you probably are more on the official side of training. So can you just describe the courses that you teach and opportunities within Harper for students interested with this pathway?
We have 23 courses at Harper in the hospitality and food service management program. So there's a lot of variety there. The top courses that we teach that are part of the dual credit program are 101, 111, oh, you don't know the numbers, excuse me. Sorry about that. I don't know the names of the courses. Like I said, I'm just starting. So,
Mhm.
but I know the numbers. So we have the basic cooking, we have basic introduction to food service and sanitation and those courses. I do not teach any of the culinary courses because I'm the management side.
Mhm.
Out of the 23 courses at the college, I teach 9 of them. Sanitation is one of them, but it's not culinary, that's food service. And there's a difference. In
Mhm.
my background, I had food service classes. So I do teach the food service classes, but I have not taught culinary. Our chefs do that. And so it would be great if I had talked to them to let them know that they should be here tonight. But it's a great program. I have done the dual credit visits so that I can be familiar with what the students are learning at the high schools and to know that they are very compatible with what we have. And it's the exact same course. So what the students are able to do then is to apply those courses that they're learning at the high school level to their certificate and or to their degree at Harper. And so I'm here because I want to let the students know that we have one of the top programs in the suburban area. And we're going to be looking at some new elective courses that are going to bring our curriculum up to a different standard. And I'm just here to talk about that and a little bit about the culinary. I don't know much, like I prefaced that before, but I do know the hospitality side of it, the other 8 segments of hospitality.
And that's great. And I think that it does speak. And I've been to the kitchens of Harper, and the facilities there are top notch. But what you're describing is that you may enter in one course, but there's lots of opportunities within that
Exactly.
hospitality umbrella, and that seems like a common theme tonight as we're talking to our different panelists. Is you may enter thinking one thing, but then you can be you can open
Exactly.
up to a whole bunch of possibilities, and Harper does that quite well.
Oh, good. Thank you. I had a guest speaker recently that talked about the trend. Now you were talking about the network chefs, and that's like a trend. But he said that the latest trend is personal chef. And I love that idea. I love the idea that the students can learn that entrepreneurial piece to be a personal chef. They're going to learn all the culinary pieces and then the customer service and all the soft skills to go with that technology. So
Cool.
that's a good thing that we're going to do at Harper. And I think the additional courses will help the students with customer service and um, working with different kinds of operations, whether I like the moorings. I love that idea of having um, the non-commercial restaurant idea. You're feeding thousands of people every day, 3 meals, the same as a restaurant would do. So it's certainly a transferable skill all the way around. Students can go from a restaurant commercial environment to a non-commercial environment to being their own entrepreneurial business is wonderful. That's what we offer.
Yeah, great. Yes, thank you. Kimmy, I want to talk a little bit about specifics for District 214. So the courses, the skills, and within that, ProStart program, which you briefly mentioned, what are kids doing? What are they exposed to? If you can briefly talk to us about all the things that your kids do at Meadows and in 214.
Well, I pulled up the the 3 classes that we correlate to. So if you take the Intro to Culinary, Advanced Culinary, Pro Start 1, Pro Start 2, then that gives you 250 hours of work time. And then you need to have 400 hours to complete that, which is why that's the next internship compartment where you get it through our district, if that makes sense. So we give partial hours because of the stuff that we teach at our class, because we are catering to over 1,000 people a year, I would say. So if you take all 3 of those classes, or the full 2 years with at Buffalo Grove, Elk Grove, and Rolling Meadows, those classes are going to be Intro to Hospitality Industry, FSM 111. And then there's also Food Standards and Sanitation that you'll get credit for. And then also Introduction to Food Prep and Production. And so that's guaranteed. I'm a Harper adjunct. I have my own Harper login. So I put in the grades A's, 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 I hope, this semester for everybody on my course. And then I log into Harper and I put in the same exact grades over there. So it's really nice to get that. Plus, in the past couple of years, it's college culinary arts. So now you get extra like we should have a counselors, but there should be, you get more effort towards your GPA because you're in a college level class, is given honors credit, which is also really awesome that not many schools do. High schools, I mean, across the district. So that just oomph up your GPA as well if you do take the classes.
That's good.
So
Thank you.
sorry, go ahead.
No, keep going. I want you also to, because I'm glad I wanted to talk about the dual credit connections that we have. So you did that for me. Within that ProStart program, describe, I'll let you briefly mention it, but some of the external experiences. You talk about the catering, and I mean, many times when I see you, it's at a district event with your kids, and you're really not in the classroom anymore. So talk to us a little bit about those external experiences.
Right. And that's part of the reason why we get the dual credit, is because we are actually doing the work that they would be doing at those classes. So the intro and advanced classes are very residential geared, which I think honestly, even if you're not going to want to be, you're leaving here like, I'm not going to do culinary arts, at least take intro and advanced to get yourself to be a functioning human that can make a good meal for yourself. It just makes your life easier because you're doing it 3 times a day, if not more. And so in those classes, it's very much like you're learning how to read recipes, how to cook a chicken breast, and then you get to our classes and we're making 65 chicken breasts for the staff lunch. And so it's a little bit more, like we said, food service geared, that the Maureen's guys talked about a little bit about production more than anything. So I'm already expecting that their skills are there. I kind of say I'm like the culinary coach at that point. And so, you know, how you're shooting a basketball, you have to follow through on your wrist, you're holding your knife correctly, you're setting up your stuff correctly, you're mise en placing correctly. All of those things I like am in the back of their heads coaching them more than teaching them and giving them a test now. Because the test is, you need to give 65 chicken breasts to the staff members and we can't make them sick, because that would make the news if we had to close school because we didn't cook to 165. So those realistic types of barriers, it's not just -5 in my class and move on, or I didn't turn in my worksheet. It's those types of life skills that make you a good worker, even if you're not going to do culinary arts. I think that's important to kind of think about. And overall, just fun. There's a lot of cool things that we get to experience, where we grill on the golf course for one of those for the district golf outing. My ProStart 1 students this past year got a $10,000 scholarship to Harper by inventing their own bread and competing against the other ProStart schools. So that was really special. They got to serve like a state senator and a couple of business owners, very important people. Like, it could have just been a worksheet on how quick breads work, but then to actually develop it and go all the way through is really where that business management part comes with too. They had to cost out what everything meant, how it cost. They're going to sell it in a set of 4. And so it was a really cool experience to make that actually happen. And then the last thing that my ProStart 2, this is kind of a capstone project now, is at Rep's Place, is in a restaurant in Rolling Meadows. And we got to create the entire summer menu. So that was really cool too. He said, let's do a Mexican theme. And then I was like, I have 12 kitchens, and we kind of sorted it all out. And he came in and tested and gave us feedback. And then we went back and redid it. And then he finalized it. We gave them the menus, costed everything of that as well. And then like the picture I took on my phone is printed in their on each of their tables over on their menus over there. So that was a cool thing for me too, to be able to have the real life. See, like, I feel like students are always, the parents are like, oh, when the teacher says it, then they say, okay. But then now I feel like they're culinary moms. So when the boss at the restaurant says it, then it really does mean that you need to make sure you're cooking your food correctly and all that kind of stuff. So I think they wear chef jackets too. So there's like, we definitely, that's every time we cook, they're doing hair restraints. We're following the code, like the health inspector would come to us. And then the last thing I want to say too, another cool part about ProStart is that there's something called the ProStart Passport. And if you just Google ProStart Passport, there's a couple of years in the past, they update it each year, but there's over, I think, 55 different culinary schools that will say, if you're a certified school, which all of our district teachers are, and they'll say that you can go, the Art Institute in Colorado will grant you 3 credit hours or 4 credit hours. So it's like a little dictionary thing that goes through it. So it's not where you're guaranteed the credit at Harper. You have the opportunity to have all the credit through the ProStart passport, and you get the advanced credit through school, and you get to eat all of your schoolwork, which is usually ends up being some cool things. So
That's
I think
good.
that's all I got to say. And if you want to ask
Good.
me personal questions too, you can email me through school, and I'll be happy to kind of help you with your teachers. Sorry, the last thing, if you go to a school that doesn't have it, Prospect, Wheeling, or Hersey, you can travel to those, to one of our hub schools and then take it out of those. And the reason why we have those is we have a commercial kitchen in all of our labs, like a morph of some sort. It's not really like walking into the back of the Moorings with hub kitchens and things like that. I'm jealous of those, but it's a little bit different than just your home cooking style. And that's why they're not at Hersey and all of the other schools, if you guys are from those other schools.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Nico, I want you to talk a little bit more about your experiences. So we kind of talked about what takes place in the buildings, and then at that that placement that you had, what were you doing, and how did your skills that you learned at Buffalo Grove then carry over?
Yeah, so when I was at my internship, it was a really great experience because I just got to bake. Like the first day that I was there, I was already baking without really like any instructions that much, which was just really cool because I felt like it was just like a really great way to get the experience straight away. And the business is like really small too, and it's very family owned. So I got to know everyone really fast, which is really cool. And I would say that at Buffalo Grove, so I didn't take ProStart yet before I had my internship, but I had taken like Intro to Culinary Arts and Advanced Culinary Arts. So it was just a great experience to be working in a group, first of all, because, you know, like getting used to having more than one like cook in the kitchen and all that stuff was good to have experience with, like knowing how to do. And then conversions and everything, just being able to do without thinking about it is really useful for just in the moment when it's really busy.
And how did this internship kind of shape what you're doing now and what you plan on doing for your career pathway going forward?
Yeah, so I'm not sure yet what I want to do when I go to college. But the internship really helped, I would say, reaffirm that I do want to do something with culinary arts. Like I don't want to go to culinary school right away because like I'm not totally sure that, you know, like that's kind of like exactly like that's what I'd be doing. But I'm gonna go like I think to a 4-year college. But the internship just really helped me, and it got me to see the business end too, and just the reality of it, and something that I wouldn't get to see even in ProStart. So that was really great. And yeah.
Excellent. Good. Thank you for sharing that. Very important stuff. Catherine, if a student is thinking in the same realm, like maybe I want to try something out, or maybe I'm not quite sure, what advice would you give them, and how could a 214 student get in touch with an experience like Nico had?
Well, I think that particularly in culinary arts, it's a very, very valuable thing to do an internship because, as Katie in particular mentioned, it's a rough career. It's hard work. It's a huge commitment. And by doing a micro internship or a traditional internship, you put your foot into that world and see how you would enjoy it. And as Nico mentioned, if a student is thinking at all of opening his own business, whether it's going to be a restaurant, a bakery, an ice cream stand, whatever it is great to have the experience of seeing how that business operates because it is a huge financial and personal and professional commitment. So I would encourage any student who's thinking of a career in culinary arts. Probably you will need a food handler's license. Most of our industry partners require that. It's not a big deal. It costs $10. You apply online. Nico had to have one for the Bakester, and I think she would agree that it was not a difficult thing to do. And then I would encourage you to at least take the Intro to Culinary Arts to prepare. And then if you like it, you could go on and think about taking some of the more advanced coursework. But for most of our partners, if you just have the Intro to Culinary Arts, that probably is enough to do an internship. And so one of the nice things about that type of internship is it's more available to students who are maybe rising juniors or juniors than some of the other pathways where you have to have some very particular coursework. So if you're interested, email me or see the student success coach in your building. Every one of the buildings has a student success coach, usually in the College and Career Center or in student services, and they'd be happy to talk with you about the different kinds of experiences you can have. And it goes beyond just food too, in event planning, lots of different types of things you can do in the hospitality pathway.
That's great. I want to see if there's any kind of parting remarks from our panel. But while I do that, I do want to say, as promised, and Catherine just mentioned that email addresses, course handbooks, descriptions of courses, all that information, it's available on the District 214 website on this academic pathways and programs portion that you can click on, and you can find even emails of the college career coaches, administrators like myself or teachers like Kimmy. You'll find that information that you need on that district website. There's so much on there, there's almost too much. It's kind of information overload, but I do, as promised, want to throw that up there one more time. So people, that's a great way to find more information and find our contact information. And with that, I do want to see if there's any parting remarks from our panelists as we kind of conclude for the evening.
Yeah, I'd like to really kind of echo what Catherine was saying. Getting the experience in the actual industry is invaluable. From going from a culinary school into the business is incredibly important. And what I would say to the students is to have patience, because of the two interns that we've had, they both commented about how overwhelming it is and that it is much more than what they had thought. But they have to have the patience to understand that they're learning, and they will, if they keep their nose to the grindstone and absorb as much as they can, they would be shocked and surprised about how easy it kind of comes along. But it can be very, very overwhelming in the beginning. But it's a great profession. I've done it. It's the only thing I've ever done. And it's the only thing I would ever do. So.
That's great. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. Any other remarks from our panelists?
I just want to piggyback on what Katie said earlier, excuse me, talking all day today, about having passion for this industry. You have to love what you do. And I tell my students that all the time. It doesn't matter which field you're in, but particularly in hospitality, the hours are longer, the work is harder, and getting started can be challenging. So you have to love what you do. And if you do love it, it won't feel like work. You'll be just like Katie. You'll jump out of bed and be ready to go and go and work every morning. So it's a great career field, and I think you should consider it. Just the entire industry is so wonderful. It really is. That's all I have.
That's great. Thank you, everyone, for your time tonight. Those are some great closing thoughts. Again, reach out to us if you need more information. And I thank you all for being here with us. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.